Okay, so Lizzie asked, how can I maximize my endurance training and also maximize strength at the same time? Now, this type of training is something we call concurrent training, okay, where we're training two different types of adaptation at the same time and trying to achieve best results in both of them. Now, when you do this, there's a few different ways you can approach it, Lizzie. Okay, so the first way is the concurrent model, where we are in fact training both of those things within the same week at the same time. Now, as a beginner, when you first get started, you can actually train both of those. You can train both aerobic fitness and strength and hypertrophy, or strength and muscle growth, in the same session, and you will get results. As you go down the line and as you get more strength, more aerobic fitness, trying to get more adaptations out of your body becomes more tricky, and that's where you need to be a bit smarter about how we're programming that. And there's also some things you can do in your nutrition, which I'll explain. So there's two main models we could do it. The first one is the concurrent model, which is where on different days of the week you're going to go and you're going to train with a specific focus in mind. Now, the reason we do this is because when you train, you're creating conditions in the muscle which will then send a message back upstream to your genes. Okay, so the muscle creates a different condition within it. It sends a message through proteins and it goes to your genes. The genes then adapt and change and then send a message back downstream through proteins to your muscle to change. Okay, now the problem is the proteins that do that for aerobic fitness compete with the ones that do that job for increasing your strength and muscle gains. So what we need to do is try and separate out what we're doing in each session and make sure we're clear about what adaptations you want in each one. So the first thing you can do if you are going to use that model is that you go into the gym and you have a good idea of exactly what it is you're training, and don't try and make your sessions a blend of both aerobic and strength and fitness. That will work to a level, but if you want to push your performance to the highest level you possibly can, you need to separate them out. If you're not going to use that route, another route you can use is something called a block periodized route. Now, this was first popularized it started in Europe, but it was popularized in the US in around the 80s, where typically what you'll do is you'll have 3 weeks focusing on a particular goal. So for example, aerobic endurance might be the focus for that block. And you want to try and train that almost in its entirety for that block. And then afterwards, you'll move on to something else. Now, where this approach picks up some criticism is that people will say that if you achieve aerobic fitness in block 1, but then you haven't trained it for a long period of time, you get something called detraining, where you'll start to lose the adaptation that you've gained. So what we would say is there's something called a training residual. So when you have achieved a change in a particular goal, there's a length of time that you can hold on to that goal for. In the case of aerobic fitness, holding on to about 95% of your gains can last up to 30 days. So we know once we've trained that we only need to revisit your aerobic endurance every 30 days. When it comes to strength, however, particularly maximal strength, we only hang on to those gains to a high degree for around 3 to 5 days. So we need to train it more regularly. So there's two approaches we can use, either the concurrent model, where you're training it regularly, but making sure that you're going into the gym with a specific focus, or you can have a block periodized approach, but make sure that you know how long you're going to hold on to the gains that you've got in the gym and how often you need to revisit them. But if there's anything we can help with, just ask, like you have done, ask more questions, get in touch with us or come down and meet us. Okay, thanks.